This is turning out to be one of our favorite episodes we like to do every year, and it's just like we pick out something different. You know, last year we did the Super Funnel in Kansas. So many good memories, so many good things went right, so many things went wrong. This year, this show is all about what was our most memorable hunt and what was one of our worst and what would we have done different if we had it to do over again. So saddle up, ton of stuff coming at you, a ton of big white tails. We hope you love it.
My most memorable moments, I mean, I've got a lot. This episode is a little different. We're going to talk about what our most memorable moments are and also what our biggest regrets are up to this point. I've been fortunate enough, I've killed two giants, two world-class deer. You know, I killed Fishhook with a bow. He's a mega giant. We have chased for 4 solid years. Oh my God. That's a deer I've waited 3 years. Thank you, Lord. This is a deer we call Fishhook. And we have 4 years of history with this deer. This was the first deer on this farm that I ever got a picture of that I wanted to shoot. And it's not about me taking him or how big he is, it's about the story. It's about the history. It's about Eric sitting in a tree with me countless hours, being patient, waiting on me to kill him. It's about Chris helping, because Chris seen him as much as we did. It took all 3 of us to kill this deer, to figure out exactly where he was living and what he was doing. Whew. Dude, I don't even know what to say. This dude has made an old Virginia boy's dream come true. I never in a million years thought I'd be sitting behind an animal like this. I killed Black Widow with a muzzleloader. He's a mega giant. Man! And this is the deer I wanted to kill last year. And I eat a tag because I went after him and nothing else. Never dreamed of seeing him this year. And I mean, he's a giant, but I've said it for years. This is my favorite hunt. This is what it's about, but it's not. This is what it's about. All these guys are like family, man. That's why Eric and I are so passionate about this. Chris too. I mean, it's just, you hunt so hard, you work so hard. We're 1,200 miles from home. We got a matched set of sheds from this deer from last year. And it's just, these friends, they're like family. I mean, you can't do it without them. God almighty, dude. But for me, probably my most memorable moments up to now is probably last year. I got to take my nephew hunting in youth weekend at home in Virginia, plus I got to let my dad tag along. My dad taught me how to hunt, you know. My dad was the one who let me take his gun and go out. He showed me everything, so that was super, super important to me, and I'll cherish that forever. The second afternoon of the youth season. Virginia only gives kids 2 days before season. I know some states give them a week, but here we get 2 days. What I done today, I came up here and I moved this blind about 80 yards closer. We've actually got a different game plan because the deer ain't coming where I thought he was gonna show up, but we're set up for where he was at last night. With any luck, we're gonna get it done. What do you think?
It's gonna be a good night. I wanna see it.
He's further than Tyler's probably comfortable making a shot. So I had to tell Tyler, you know, calm down, breathe.
Oh, I hit him.
Oh,
I don't know what to say. Yeah.
Well, you don't look too excited. Me and Tyler both smiling. You're just sitting there.
I'm just watching.
My gosh. I can't even pick his head up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Yep, 9-pointer.
Big old 9. Oh my gosh.
My nephew killed a great 9-pointer. That is my most memorable moment. Make sure you subscribe and like the page. On top of that, make sure you click the little notification bell. That way you'll be one of the first ones to know when a new video drops. This episode is a little different. We're going to talk about what our most memorable moments are.
Most memorable hunt for me would have to be Cheeto. in Iowa. Eric was filming me. Funny thing about that Cheeto hunt is when we got down there, we'd never hung in this tree before. We knew the tree we needed to be in, but we hadn't been to that tree yet. Literally, it was a hunt and a hang situation. We carried our stands in, and Eric's up there in a tree, and I think he's cutting it's almost like he had a chainsaw, he might as well. There were limbs falling, he's cutting, it's making all kinds of racket, and I'm thinking, there's no way we're gonna see a deer tonight. There's no way I'm gonna kill a deer, and Eric has just screwed me once again. First evening, we went to Death Row. Eric told me this is gonna be the spot to go, and it was still early. It was early in the evening, and we looked up on the hill and we saw that big boy coming, and he looked like a Brahma bull coming down through that hillside. It's a giant. It's a giant. Across the fence, Eric said he's gonna walk right by the tree. He's coming. He's coming. Across the fence, Eric said he's gonna walk right by the tree. He did. He was following a doe, gets up right beside of us. I go to pull my bow back, pow! I hit the limb that was in front of me, and he stopped for a second. I thought, well, I've screwed up again. And he just kept walking, so I stopped him and laid it to it. Yeah. Yes, that's the biggest deer of my life. The biggest deer of my life. It's the first day in Iowa, first evening. We came in here, hung this set, made noise. I didn't think we'd see a deer. Let me tell you something. That is why you come to Iowa. That is why you wait 3 years to draw a tag. First evening, biggest deer of my life. Drop time. Boom. Boom, Eric. I tell you, we did it right. And I am one happy hunter in Iowa tonight. I never, ever, ever kill anything the first day. Couldn't ask for anything more. My biggest deer to date, he had a little drop tine, and that was a fun hunt. And I'm telling you, we didn't have to drag that deer for probably 40 yards, but it almost killed both me and Eric. That was a big bodied deer. This is one of those situations that late October, just before those first does pop, you have a small 4 or 5 day window opportunity where you can kill the biggest bucks on your farm. We knew the buck was there. We had pictures of it. We knew where to be. We knew which tree to be in. He was in a panic as he was walking out through there, coming toward us. Those does were out there. He was grunting. And you could tell he was just fired up. He was ready for those first does to pop. And it's just a perfect example of don't be afraid to go in there early, early, and try to get on those big mega bucks, because sometimes that's when they're gonna come out. They're trying to look for those first does to pop. And that was probably other than old hunts, with my dad and stuff that's not on film, those are some of my most memorable. But as far as being on film footage-wise, that's my favorite.
I would have to say that my most memorable deer hunt would have to be last year in Iowa, hunting a deer we call Boontown 10. It's not the fact that he was a net Boone Crockett buck as a 10-pointer. It was the fact that all of us together had set a goal on this farm, and that was to grow as big a deer as we could possibly grow. I literally let this deer walk out of my lap. I had a 90 to 100 yard shot at him multiple times. We got it right here. Oh my gosh, what a deer. Can't tell what deer that is, but it's an absolute giant. Dude, I don't know what to do. As we're sitting in the blind and we're going back and forth, and my phone's almost dead, I'm texting Jeff, I'm texting Jason, send me more pictures. Chase, send me pictures. For whatever reason, I just wasn't completely convinced that this was Baby Giant. And when Baby Giant, that I thought, got up on the hilltop, I had like a 90-yard shot at this deer. It's a world-class deer standing there. And I'm thinking, I'm losing my mind. This deer's a giant. This buck's G2s are in the back, right? I think it's Baby Giant. I mean, I really do. I don't know for sure, but I think.
We have a 4-year-old 10-pointer on the farm. We call him Baby Giant. We've all agreed to pass him every year. So this giant 10 comes out in front of Eric, and he thinks it's Baby Giant and lets this deer walk out of the field. That was a bad mistake.
Did not shoot him because I thought it was a deer we call Baby Giant as a 4-year-old. The fact that I let that deer go, didn't panic, and just stayed the course that deer came right back in that food plot, walked right back in my life. You know, Boontown 10, he's out there and he's just absolutely munching and just taking in beans as hard as he can go. I'll never forget him coming through those beans, coyotes starting to howl, and I remember, you know, I did one of the most cardinal scenes you never do is when it's super quiet and really cold, which it was that night, I didn't ease my safety off, and man, when I hit that safety, it popped, and he stopped and looked right at the blind. I mean, he literally was staring through me. I thought at that moment, man, oh, did I just really just about blow it? And you know, these deer are so relaxed on that farm that he ended up turning and brought broadside and literally gave me like a 50-yard shot with that Traditions, and I mean, the rest is history. I mean, it just ate his lunch. That is a freaking giant. Oh my gosh, what a deer. We've sat here, all of us have sat here trying to figure out if that was a deer we call baby giant, and it's not. But God had a plan, because this deer marched back into our lives, coaxed him a little bit, come through the beans, give me a 49-yard shot, and the striker fire beat him up. I've been coming to Midwest for 14 years. This is my first net typical Boone, and maybe my only one, that's fine. Boontown 10, baby. We knew about this deer 2 years ago, and here he is. This deer was a ghost. But last night, he gave me the chance of a lifetime. I made good on it. This is what it's all about, man. Growing giant whitetails, having great times, making memories. What a giant. We need you to support us, guys. So go over, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. And every time we post something, you're gonna get that little bell going off, and you're gonna know instantly that you can go over and watch it and catch what's going on.
Regrets. What do I regret? Oh, it's hunting. It's like a baseball or basketball or NASCAR or whatever. Everybody's got regrets. I've got a lot of them, but there's probably one regret that stands out more than anything, and it happened this year. It was on a mega giant that I killed, the Black Widow. But when I took the shot, he was I was halfway through the trigger pull, and he took off to start trotting, and I kind of led him and squeezed through the trigger. And if I had it to do over with, I would have just let him run a little bit, and then he would have probably stopped 75 or 100 yards out. And I would have had a really clean shot. But for me, that's probably one of my biggest regrets in my hunting career, is the fact that I shot a deer that started to run. Now, I ended up killing the deer, but I wish I would have just let him go out 50 or 75 yards and stop and chill back out and regrouped, stepped back and punted, and made it work that way.
My biggest regret in my hunting career was a deer we called Lean-To. I was hunting on a new property, had never been there. The landowners were friends of mine. They were sending me pictures all year, and they were just giants. But this one it stood out from all the other ones. Just a big framey deer, and his brow tines went out, so we called him Lean-To. Eric and I went out there. We were gonna hunt it. We were gonna scout it out. It was a completely different scenario from what we were used to hunting. There were no big trees. There was no timber, and it was all, you know, pines, small pines. So we were completely out of our element. We had no clue how to hunt this deer, and you know, we just didn't know what to do. We ended up setting up and making a ground blind just out of sticks and logs and stuff, and just cedar branches. And the deer ends up coming in, had no thought that I was even gonna see this deer the way we were set up. He starts coming in, and Eric made a mistake on this one. The deer's coming in, and Eric, my cameraman, stops him. And he goes, man, the deer stops. When he stopped him, he was behind a bunch of stuff. From my view, I couldn't see him. And I don't know if that shook me up or what, but the deer stopped for a minute, and then he starts walking again. And then I had a clear shot, and it wasn't that hard of a shot. I had a Traditions muzzleloader. It was probably 75, 85 yards, maybe 100. It wasn't that far. And I shot right over his back, and didn't get the deer. And it was a giant. It was an absolute giant deer. We're back at the motel, and We went out to look for blood and we didn't find any. Of course, it was getting dark, so we wanted to come back and look at the footage. And just as we suspected, I missed that deer. I think I shot him high, or I shot high. Ended up, the landowner's son killed the deer. He was 170-ish, and I'm happy for him. He was tickled to death with the deer, but man, that deer would have looked really good on my wall. And I don't know if there's anything I could have done different. I was probably rushed a shot, I guess. I was just, probably had buck fever. I think it was a lot of just me, but that's my biggest regret.
Go ahead, subscribe to our channel, like it. You're gonna get that little notification bell. It's gonna go off, let you know when something new hits. Follow, subscribe. Happy hunting this fall. We love everybody. Thank you again.
Biggest, what I would have done different would be a deer that not many people know about, a deer we call yardstick. 2016, been hunting that deer 5 years at that point. Jason, me and Chris, we had throwed everything at that deer we could throw at him. Till I finally, one trail camera picture told me exactly where I needed to hunt that deer. I spent 5 years hunting that deer in the wrong places that I had consistently killed big deer. In fact, I'd killed 3 booners off that farm. But this deer, for whatever reason, wasn't doing what they wanted to do, and it is what it is. But we got a trail camera picture of this deer, and he had mud all over the bottom of his feet. And on this creek, we have a creek that literally runs through the whole center of this property, and it has 2 oxbows in it, one of which is at the road, which I know he didn't cross there. The other one is in the middle of the farm, and the reason why I say why that's a big deal is because it's a shelving rock creek. But in that oxbow, there's a ton of sediment and a ton of mud that piles up. Sure enough, that is where that deer was coming out of a place where we know he was staying. And, you know, Chris and I were there. We knew what we needed to do. We put the trail cameras out, started getting pictures immediately of him in daylight. And, you know, it was game on. It was just simply waiting for the right wind and the right opportunity. This was one of those nights when we went in. I think Chris knew it as much as I knew it. In fact, Chris said, we're going to see that deer. You know, we're going to kill this deer.
Roughly 23 hours ago, a world-class deer, a deer that we, as a Red Rising crew, have chased for 5 years, was standing exactly 32 yards in front of that Browning trail camera. Beautiful daylight pictures of him. We have played cat and mouse with this deer for 5 years.
This is a world-class deer. Biggest typical I may ever hunt in my life. This year he's blown into a big mainframe 9-point with a drop tine. And I'll never forget it that night. We're sitting there and, you know, we're on this ditch that literally is between 2 agricultural fields with an interior food plot with clover, and it's basically got 4 corners in it. So everything comes to this one point. I mean, we picked the tree, and there's always a ton of does there. And I figured at some point during the rut, over every 2 or 3 days, we would get pictures of him with a doe. He would break loose. Well, tonight was the night. I'll never forget it. I looked down in the weeds. Here he came, dogging a doe, and I've never been more sure of a deer that I was going to kill than this deer. And he comes in. I was as calm as I've ever been because it was literally in my lap. I mean, he was like at 23 yards. And I come to full draw, and I stop him. And when I stopped him, unfortunately for me, the second time I tried to stop him, he stopped literally right behind a tree. The only thing I could see was this much of his rear. And Chris, being on the opposite angle, you know, you can see the difference between my angle on the Tacticam, Chris's angle on the camera, the main camera. He had a great shot. I had 0 shot. Deer takes off. Try to stop him again. Sure enough, the doe stops. I could have killed the doe 15 times. Chris says, I'm on him. Again, I have nothing at this point. I mean, there's literally nothing to shoot at vital-wise. The deer takes off, and there's probably a spot this wide with a couple of little limbs going through it, and he's at a trot running this doe, and he's popping at her. I would have bet you $1 million that he was going to run right out in our food plot and stop. I'd have got him stopped and I got him killed. But he didn't. He took off. The doe took right back toward a cedar thicket, and he went behind her. Looking back, I mean, it was a 23-yard shot. I probably could have led that deer and maybe made the shot, but because of I am overly cautious sometimes, I think if maybe Jason or Chris might have been in there, they might have tried that shot, and they might have killed a world-class deer. I didn't, and the only thing I can tell you is they may never be another deer like that to hunt, ever. But if I had to do it again, I think I would have led that deer a little bit, and I probably could have made that shot. But
I can't really even muster the words. We've hunted that deer for years. Yeah. Never videoed him. I don't know, maybe I should have took a shot at him, but I will probably never see that deer again. I just had a world-class deer at 15 yards and couldn't get him killed.
hey, it is what it is. That's hunting, right?